Good morning and welcome to my channel. My name is Shoshana and I'm a guide to life. I help people navigate through the spiritual awakening and changes. I also guide twin flames. And today I want to talk a little bit about triggers in your life, people that trigger you or situations that trigger you, and how that triggers are actually an opportunity for your growth. Because whenever you are triggered, it is triggering something in you. If you are reacting in an emotional way to something that you are meeting in your life, then it is triggering something from your past, something within you that you are not willing to face. And if it is triggering you in a way and creating this behavior that is a pattern that keeps on returning in your life, it means that it is a mechanism that you have created within you in order to cope, in order to protect you, protect your inner self, your soft self, the inner child, the vulnerable part of you from having to deal with whatever that emotion is. So it is bringing up some emotion from your past, waking it up, and it is a place where you are out of alignment, because if it is triggering you and creating this behavior, it means that there is a mechanism there, some kind of wall, so that you don't have to deal with whatever that emotion, whatever emotion it is bringing up within you. So anytime that you are triggered or you have a situation or a person, especially, a lot of times we will be attracted to the people that trigger us the most, because our inner self, our soul, knows that there are keys in that for our expansion. Because wherever we have a trigger, there is a portal inward. That is a place that we need to get extremely curious about, because that place it's like a hidden treasure. It's like a place that will lead you. It is a telltale sign that this is a place within me that needs healing. This will lead me, if I allow myself to feel whatever emotion is coming up in that place, whatever this is causing me to feel that I'm trying to run away from. And that's why I'm having this behavior or this reaction that is pushing this away from me. Then whatever that emotion is, allow yourself to feel it. And as you allow yourself to feel it, it will also bring up your past traumas. It'll bring up the place in childhood, if that place is a place that you have memory of, because a lot of these triggers, a lot of these behaviors that we created, these mechanisms, were created in such early childhood that we don't even remember what the cause of that trigger is. So it is, in that case, let's finish the point before. So whenever it brings up the traumas, the memories, then you have more to work with. Then you can work with those memories and you can go back to your childhood and see the child in that situation and hold that child and give that child the comfort that they need. And also you have enough perspective, enough distance between you when you were a child and that belief was created and that mechanism was created, right? The belief is, typically, it lays in, I'm not worthy. So there is some kind of something that happened in your past that made you feel that you're not worthy, and that emotion is very, very hurtful. And if you really break it down, you may find things that are topical, but if you really break it down, you follow the chain backwards, downwards, downwards, downwards. At the very bottom is laying that feeling of inadequacy, that feeling of, this person saw me and doesn't accept me. I am inadequate, and I am less than, I am unworthy. That unworthiness lies at the base of most of our, every chain that I've followed back, I've found that feeling of unworthiness laying at the very core. And when you can follow that chain back enough times and find that child or that memory where, you don't have to go back to the very first memory that you have, but if you a feeling or a trigger is an opportunity to say, wait a minute, why am I being triggered? What is it that I don't want to feel? Okay, feel the emotion. And then when is the first time that I felt that emotion that I can think of? What thought is that bringing up? What memory is that bringing up? And it may bring up a specific traumatic event, and it may bring up a memory that you were like, I didn't even realize that that was something that shaped who I am. And it could be something I can tell you about me. When I started going through my own spiritual awakening and open to these sorts of ideas in my own healing, I remember feeling that fear of others seeing me, that they're not going to like me. I said, well, why aren't they going to like me? And I felt that emotion, that uncomfortableness of being unliked and unworthy. And the memory that popped up was surprising. It was when I was in first grade, and we had those special days where there was a play. So there was a play, so they brought all of the kids into the auditorium, and we were all sitting on the ground. I think I was in first grade. And this little girl sat down next to me that she was like the prettiest girl in class. And she had this wavy hair. And she always was so, like, even at that age, popular. And I really looked up to her like she was amazing. And she was sitting next to me, and they handed out those little rolls of candy, those little rolls of like chalk candy that now you like, ugh. But but it was like an item. We got a candy in school, and they gave us a roll of those candies. And I was sitting there, I was savoring them because I didn't get a lot of candy growing up. And I was savoring them. And I was sitting right next to this girl, and she finished all her candies, and then she just started reaching over and picking out of my candy thing and eating it. And I remember the feeling that I had was like honored. Oh, she's eating from my candy. Oh, wonderful. It wasn't a feeling of that was an obvious unworthy feeling. It was a feeling of, wow, she's actually eating from my candy. This girl that I perceive as better than me, it feels that I'm adequate enough for her to eat from my candy. And so you see, that's not an obvious unworthiness. It's not an obvious memory. I hadn't remembered that in so many years. I think that it was almost completely erased from my memory. But when I started following the chain back of feeling, when did I feel unworthy in my past, in my childhood? And that popped up. I was like surprised. What does that have to do with it? And I've realized since that it was the feeling that I'm inadequate. So, and I'm unworthy. So even her eating my candy makes me feel worthy. And that is a sense of unworthiness. There were other memories that came up that were also, when I was doing this process, there's other memories that also came up that were actually, I got in trouble for something. I was peeking through the window and I saw something I shouldn't, that scarred me. And I got in real big trouble for it too because I was caught, and I was 4. And I remember just feeling it was like something in me broke. And that was one of these aha moments because I had completely forgot about it until I started processing these emotions, until I started following, those mechanisms and those triggers back to early childhood, seeing myself in that situation as a 4-year-old, seeing how completely innocent I was. I was so innocent. And I remembered that getting in trouble like that, like I did, was so detrimental to who I became and to the feeling of not being, I have to keep in line. I can't do anything so that I never feel that feeling again. And it closed me off. And that was at 4 years old. And so a lot of our behaviors and mechanisms that we create to protect ourselves from being hurt again, from feeling that inadequacy, we're actually closing ourselves off from experiencing life. We're afraid to reach out. We're afraid to open ourselves up because if we open ourselves up and we open our heart up, then we might be hurt. And so when you can see triggering moments, when you're triggered, when you lash out, when you get upset about something, those are mechanisms Or it could even be going into the mode of being victim. Oh no, I'm crying, or completely closing yourself off, just becoming emotionless. When you can find those triggers, when you can find, first of all, those emotions, right? Where is it that I feel uncomfortable? Places in life that make me feel uncomfortable. What triggered it? Why did I react that way to that trigger? So when you are triggered, it is actually a gift. It is actually, those are the places that you can go in and do the most healing in, because you're not looking blindly, right? Oh, I want to heal, but how do I heal? Here's how you heal. You follow those triggers back to early childhood. You're like, okay, I feel it. What does it feel like? Oh, it feels so uncomfortable. When was the first time I ever felt this? Doesn't have to be the first time. It just has to be something that represents that feeling in early childhood, because you are now an adult. You are far enough away from the perspective of that child to be able to get a bird's eye view and look backwards and see you as a child, as a separate entity, as somebody that you have evolved from. And then you can see that child that you are in that situation, and you can see how innocent, and you can see if that child was my daughter, or was my child, or my niece, or any other little child that you see doing little stupid things and then getting in trouble for them. And you can see the adults in that situation overreacting because they were triggered themselves. Because as you can see, when we're adults, we all have healing to do. So every single one of us, we can have compassion for us. Every single one of us is working through our own things. So even if we had an adult that lashed out at us as a child, we will encounter other adults as we are an adult that will have that behavior, and it will trigger whatever what happened to us in our early childhood, and it will bring those emotions back up. Only now we're adults and we're capable of handling it. We're capable of processing it. We're capable of seeing that other adult as also an adult child that has these mechanisms that are protecting themselves. And maybe part of their mechanisms are the lashing out mechanisms. So we can have that compassion towards them and kind of see a clearer picture. Kind of gives us perspective. And not only that, we can look back at the child and what created this behavior that I'm still acting. I created this behavior to protect me as a child. Could be being victim mode. It could be explosive mode. There's so many different mechanisms that could be just becoming completely iced. No, you can't touch this. Can't touch it. I'm not going to respond. There's so many mechanisms, but they are the only person that is affected by our mechanisms, other than the people around us that we hurt and our relationships that we hurt. But it is mainly and foremost and firstly hurting ourselves, because we are closing off these emotions. And if we close them off at early childhood at 4 years old, that means that those emotions, we have been living our life without the capability of feeling those emotions, or capability. We've been closing ourselves off to opportunities, so that because maybe if I go down this route, which is my route of expansion, which is something that could give me awesome opportunities in my life, but I'm closing them off because there's also the opportunity or option that I might get hurt down that line. So if I take a step towards there, I'm putting myself in danger that I might get hurt. So then we keep ourselves in these tight little lines, not willing to get out of the box, and not willing to threaten ourselves that we might get hurt if we step out on the line. And then we even lose the knowledge, because from 4 years old, whatever this is that we stopped and we put that mechanism up has stopped our maturity in that specific aspect, right? So if it's an emotion of feeling pure joy, or we felt pure joy and then we were hurt, then we don't allow ourselves to feel that pure joy again, or that pure love again, or openness again, because we're afraid that we'll be that open, and then that we could get stabbed right in the heart while we're vulnerable and open. So we close ourselves off in these little boxes. You can't touch me, you can't touch me. But what also happens is that we are closed in these little boxes. Not only can nobody touch them, we are not experiencing life in these places. So whenever you are triggered, it is an opportunity for you to go in and do internal work, to follow that back and let yourself off the hook. As a 4-year-old, I went in there and saw myself and I was like, oh, that beautiful child was closed off at 4 years old. And I just hugged that child. And it's like, they always talk about a lot of people talk that are talking about the spiritual work, talk about the inner child. And this is what it is, right? This is a practical way to look at it. But I remember seeing myself as a child and just being with complete compassion towards myself and like let myself off the hook in that place. And even just doing that creates awareness and self-love, because you love yourself as a child as you would your own child. And you start giving yourself that internal love, and just know that it is a process. So you will be triggered and not catch it, right? Because it's your triggers. It's actually triggering you. But this awareness that you can bring to it, then you can go home and at night when you're looking back at the day and you're like, oh no, why did I behave that way? And instead of beating yourself up over it, you're like, okay, wait, why did I behave that way? You become like really curious and you're like, okay, what was the emotion attached to it? You're safe in your own bed. You're only with yourself. Nobody is in there with you. Nobody can hurt you. Open that emotion up. Feel what it is. What is it coming to teach you? Where in your childhood did you feel it? Go deep inside. Allow yourself to feel that emotion, and you are slowly maturing your emotions to where you are at in your life now. And then you become more open and capable of feeling and capable of being that open person, because once you heal that, nobody can hurt you there anymore, because you're holding yourself up in that place. So even if somebody comes at you and because of their own insecurities, because if somebody is coming at you, it is a telltale sign of their self, that their places that they are not healed. You are touching them in a way that exposes them, that they feel too exposed in, and so they're lashing out, or whatever mode that they're going into is their own mechanism that they've created from their own place that they are not healed in. So it is always an opportunity. So when you find somebody that triggers you, you get into that dynamic, it is because they are triggering you in the same way that you have been triggered in the past, that is triggering your vulnerability. And this is an opportunity for you to go in to heal and to really look at the situation. What did they do? How did I behave? Why did I behave it this way? Then you go back into the emotions of your childhood. But what was my reaction? And then you can say, okay, how was this reaction created? You can go back to your childhood and see why that reaction was created, and you see that it's a defense mechanism. And what would be a better way to react to this? How could I have reacted differently? And then you start shifting out of whatever reaction that was, because you've healed it. You went back in your childhood, you felt the emotion, you allow yourself to go to the emotion, you see yourself as a child in that situation, and you give yourself legitimacy and love in that situation. So that is the healing. And it doesn't all happen at once. It's a process, it's a shifting. But just doing it once will already start that shift, because you can't go backwards. You're only going forwards on this journey. But then you can also see the behavior that was created because something triggered you, tripped you up, and you went into that automatic, whatever your behavior is, your automation, your triggered behavior, your mechanism that you created. And so when somebody triggers you, it is an awesome opportunity to look at, how did I react to that? What did I do? Why don't I like what I did? Because you're not going to like yourself. And instead of beating yourself up and saying, oh, I'm so horrible, look how I reacted, I shouldn't have done that, look at it more as like, okay, wait, let me get curious about this. First of all, what was the trigger? What was the reaction? Why don't I like the reaction? You always don't like the reaction because you are off, because it's a reaction of weakness. That weakness is you not standing up in your strength. And that is why you feel, and your inner self knows that you were off. And that's why you feel that distance from your inner higher being to your reactive self, your weakness, right? Because we're all going towards our strength. We're all aligning ourselves with the all. We are all divine. We are all strong. We all have our weaknesses and our strengths. The other side of your weakness is your strength. It always is. So whatever you're feeling weak about, your strength is hidden in there. So you can find how did I react? Why don't I like that? And how could I have reacted? How would a divine being with their divine crown on their head, how would somebody who is completely aligned and confident have reacted to that situation? Somebody that it didn't move them emotionally. And then reach for that. Reach for that. See what that looks like and reach for it. And so triggers are opportunities for your expansion. Triggers are opportunities for you to do your spiritual work. This is how it's done practically. So I am sending you guys so much love and strength. And if you would like to schedule a one-on-one with me, so that we can look at what you're going through and kind of get perspective and templates of reactions and different things, then my contact information is below through my website. You can send me an email or connect with me on Facebook, and I would be happy to sit with you and go through just look at what you're going through with you. So I'm sending you guys so much love. Thank you for being here.